a lot of things happened at once in the beginning, so I'm just going to go through what I experienced really quickly. It started weird and, like, really weird. I thought about the Twilight Zone, like a really old episode where there's this married couple and they have a child, like a daughter, and the daughter goes through this weird portal in the bedroom wall, or in the wall behind her bed. Ooh, it actually is making me feel weirder than it did a second ago. So we'll get there. But so that happened, and I pictured this scene in this old Twilight Zone episode where the mother was an actress. And so that's what I was like thinking about when I was remembering it, and how like she was so ridiculously over the top with her, like, where are you? I can't find you. It was like a weird thing because it was disturbing to experience. Like, entertainment wise, I don't find that entertaining when someone's pretending or not. Like, the loss of a child is not something I find funny. The reason I'm saying that is because when I was picturing it, I was like, it's a little ridiculous. Like, as an onlooker, it made me think of our past loved ones kind of watching us fumble ourselves and our lives up, and they sort of have like this really endearing sort of view, like, oh, it's awful that you're going through this, but on the other side of that coin, they also can see that you're doing it to yourself. So it's like, oh, if you would just, it's kind of like, this is weird, but it was like a cringe feeling when I was remembering that scene in the Twilight Zone, paired with pain, hearing a mother in pain. So then it went into a couple of songs, and it was a trip, which is ironic. So the first song was humiliating. It was that, oh my gosh, this ties in. It feels as though your past was turbulent, because the first song I heard was that all my friends drive a low rider. Is that what they say? Is it drive a low rider? Please let me know. I'm going to have to look it up. I'm just a little worried about it coming out of my list. So it went immediately from that song into I'm thinking of Red Hot Chili Peppers, I think. The Take Me to the Place I Love. Da-na-na-na-na. So the reason that was all crazy is because it felt like whoever you are, if you feel like it resonates for you, it feels like you are very aware of everything all of the time, but there's something that you are subconsciously aware of all of the time too, and it eats at you, but you don't look at it all of the time. And all my friends, and what was it? There was another song in there. It was like, it's not coming to mind now, so I guess that's for a reason. So when I started, it was weird because that past moment was what I was thinking about when I heard when I saw the Twilight Zone episode in my head. And it was weird because it was like that endearing sort of feeling from guides and past loved ones around you, where it's like, no, it even feels like your own self. Just your own higher self being literally right here. I was thinking that earlier today, and it seems to be coming into the reading. So I'll just keep going. So super turbulent past. I think that you've really come out of turbulence, of a really difficult period of time. I don't know if circumstances around you changed, but definitely like internally you have changed. You are no longer like, like to get to the end of this hard trek, this one hard stint. So then it feels like you see very clearly, and that's based on you being accountable. That's why it's weird, because the subconscious thing seems like a I know I've felt this in other readings here. It feels like a self-judgment thing, like based on losses, based on some big connections lost, and even, I think, your own self. At first I wasn't sure. I was like, is this a relationship? Is this a feminine past loved one? But it's not that. This is an emotional side of yourself that I think you have to leave behind, because it's lower level. It's lower level than you are now, and you know it, and it sucks. But it is what it is, and I feel like you have this, like, one of the big messages in the beginning, which is why it was so weird and it was such a trip. It felt like a trip in the beginning where it was like, oh, take me on a little ride here, which made me think about all sorts of low things, like even past addictions. So like even friends or people that are addicted to low frequency things, I think that there are things that you got drawn into when you were connected to them. And I totally understand that, because I feel like there are people that I had to disassociate with in a large way after I overcame like my behavioral eating disorder. Like when I stopped harming myself and I actually was nourishing myself and allowing it to nourish me. Once that stabilized and I didn't panic and I felt good there, then I kind of had this peace feeling in my body, but I had this weird subconscious awareness that people around me were going to have to go. And it was like they had to go because they triggered me in areas that I was uncomfortable being triggered. It was triggering trauma responses. So deep. Okay. So then, as I was going through this, so I feel like you hold yourself accountable kind of a little to the left. Like it feels like a little harsh, a little more ruthless than I think is needed. And then I feel like in order to kind of reimburse what you don't get back from these lower level connections, even if you released them, it's like there's this subconscious awareness of the release that is still bothering you. And that's okay. That makes sense, because I feel like even in clearing a house, like I'll go through it one more final time after going into rooms and going into specific areas and like maybe certain experiences are addressed. I go through like one last time after thinking everything is good, just to make sure that there's nothing lingering that I need to address that may be a quick pull downward. Like it has to be fresh. And so give yourself the time to fight through teeny tiny little lingering bits of your outward perception of your own future going forward. So there's also this thing where so I didn't say it, but like in the beginning, one of the big messages was that you need connection. I feel like that screams loudly lately. Connection is needed. Like I know how bad connections can be for you and your life. But like connection is what keeps us here after we're gone, and it's what helps us help each other after we're gone. It's the connection to being human. So don't shut off that you still are, it's almost like there's this feeling of pull down when you start to feel excitement. It's weird. It's like, and I don't think that's for everyone, but that's for a pocket in here, and that it feels so important to mention. Because it feels like once you go through big periods of letdown, once you go through big periods of adjusting to letdowns, it can really make you, it can just kind of make you like almost feel guilty for feeling good if you get used to being drained, if you get used to feeling disappointed. It can make you kind of almost fight against your ability to feel up again because your systems all get used to that. How strange. And this is another thing. I think that big change needs to happen. So oh my gosh, I didn't say it again. And right before the reading, I literally was thinking that someone keeps getting distracted again. And I don't think you're distracted as in, like pingy. I think that you distract yourself when big emotions come to the surface. I think that you distract yourself. It's like Kitty in that 70s show when she just bakes and bakes and bakes when she's upset that like somebody's dead. Okay, so yeah, like a self-judgment thing, especially emotionally, like I feel like that's sort of like a weight that you carry that you when we carry that stuff, it becomes a part of our operating systems. So then I went into like the heart space of this reading, and another song came into mind, and it was that Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone. And that one, it's subconscious pain. That's what this feels like. It feels like someone knows what's missing all of the time. And you know what? Oh my gosh, it's so strange because it's like connection is what's missing. And yet connection is what causes pain. But then like once we go through a period of time of being super alone because you have to protect yourself from connections, it's like you go through a period of time of being super alone and just protecting yourself, just being barriered off. And then it reaches a point for a lot of us where it's like you forget that you didn't want to get barriered off. You just had to protect yourself from the feelings. And it's like when you come out of all of the turbulence, sometimes you can wonder what the hell to do with yourself because you're like hyper aware of negatives and hyper protective, and it's like, who wants to interact with that? I get that. And so it's like that's kind of a strange, weird thing that I feel like is being portrayed is it's almost like whatever the negatives are that you view in your past, it's almost like that's what's creating what you put off now. And I don't mean that in a whole way. I don't mean all day long every day. I don't mean with everything and everyone. That's more so like it just feels like this period of time of being cheated and being so sick of being cheated and not able to connect and be safe to do so or to count on anybody or to depend on anything, that it's like, what were you protecting yourself from? That. Someone who was doing that. Like they were projecting all of the crap that they were carrying and either wouldn't handle or couldn't handle or whatever. And it's like that's when you have to barrier yourself because you're like, they're not going to handle their stuff and that's why it's coming at me negatively. But so going forward, I feel like what they're basically saying is like you're chaining yourself to the past. And this is weird, but that Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone song, it made me think of yourself. Higher self. Like, which I've been thinking all day long. So it's strange because it came pretty quickly. Where it feels like whoever is getting this one, it's like you're Your higher self is not, okay, it's like the Twilight Zone episode. That's why I had such a weird moment in the beginning, because that was an odd one. I didn't jump right to empathy for the mother because it was so ridiculously cringy, but it was also like, I felt like guides, like felt like past loved ones were like, that's what it's like. And that's what it's like. Like when I had my eating disorder, whenever I did something bad to my own body, I knew that like my past loved ones were aware of it and they didn't want it for me. But it's like, I just like chose to be like, phew, like to just ignore it, just push it away, block it away, block. It was right there. It was right there the whole time. It was right there with me. I just didn't use it. I wasn't using the high frequency. I was giving in to the low frequency. My habits, my human, what I was used to, what I had adapted to, what I subconsciously knew was wrong, but just chose to keep going forward, as if that was some sort of strength. That was beating my own self down. It was like I wasn't even giving myself a chance, and that's when they win. That's when other people have really gotten in there and robbed you of your own choices. And the craziest part of this reading, okay, so the reason I got all into that, this feels really emotional. It feels like heart stuff. So all it is, it's like you have to allow yourself to feel emotions that are positive and feel weird about it. You have to feel it all. You have to feel it all at the same time. You have to feel awkward, strange, like it's stupid. You have to be mad and irritated, because that's the ride up. That's the ride up. That's when you're going up. You're shaky and you're elevating. That's something I wrote down. What was it? It's like, yeah, crazy. And I think this was in another reading, but it was like practicing self-control throughout chaos. That's what you do when you're elevating. You have to fight your own past self off. Fight off those lingering things. And that's what this is, this lingering, like, let down, disappointment, whatever it is. Your higher self is here now. You don't have to pay for the past, because carrying it, experiencing it in a prolonged way, I mean, it's literally repeating an awful experience over and over again, or choosing that you deserve to experience it at all. And this is a reading about you're missing the high frequency simply because you're missing yourself. Your higher self, it's right here. Like, same thing when I was going through all of my turbulence, not just the eating disorders, just like abusive relationships. You don't have to wait to draw your own higher frequency in for help, for extra strength to pull up, to fight your human. You can do it now. It's right there. And whoever you are, the coolest card in this reading, the coolest placement is your mind. Like, I feel like this is very loudly saying that your thoughts they're in your hands, they're in your control. That's awesome. Your thoughts are in your control, and that's what's going to dictate your human. That's how you need to fight against your human. Like falling back into the disappointment, negative pull. That's how you fight forward, is you use your thoughts, create new ones, replace what's not been put there by others, and make yourself put it there. Okay, so another part of this is, I feel like someone it's a decision. It's like a struggle in your decision. It's almost like you want to give up before you begin. That's just like what the whole thing feels like. It's like you're fighting the battle right now of, do I deserve this? Do I have some magical potential? And that's it right there. It's almost like it's being belittled in your own head. And that's wrong. That's not truth. past habitual cycles are not your self. Your self is how you can use what you know. How you can choose to use what you know. And it's really hard, but if you fight really hard, you can force your human to agree with something it does not want to agree with. You've had it feels like you've experienced very negative circumstances. Like this keeps making me think of addictions because of trauma responses, and abusive cycles, whether it was like you or received. It's like all the dark stuff, and yet your potential is brilliant. And your strength is all there. And they're like just saying, just choose to use it, choose you can. Just anything that comes in and is like, yeah, but no, silence it. Choose that you can. That's one of the things that I used was, one of the most important phrases I used was, you can do that. I was like, okay, I can do that. I would fight myself. And the other thing is, don't be so emotional. That's so funny because it's saying like to experience good emotions, but you need to visualize it like your emotions creep in to take over as the protective barrier. And it's like you have to be like, nah, you're afraid of emotions, and breathe and be like, okay. And sometimes even myself, like when I have difficulty being able to like remove barriers because of certain people I'm going to interact with or something, and I have to like really calculate my own self so I'm like in control of myself no matter what, I will force myself to cry at the beginning of my day. I'll be like, let yourself, like, it sucks, like, please help me. Like, I literally go all the way to my core and sink into a baby. And I force my face to feel it, because you feel emotions at the behind your face. So if you're willingly focusing on that, it's like, think about it just like you're focusing on, if somebody is doing Reiki healing and you're focusing, okay. Anyway, anything. I feel like you can just visualize your willpower affecting your body. And then that'll adapt to like actually happening. I'm sure it sounds nuts. Not to you people. Okay. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this was helpful. Definitely let me know in the comments if this resonates. I feel like tensing up is starting to happen. So whoever you are, like, breath control is real, and I kept avoiding saying it just then. So like, breathe deeply and let yourself experience things fully. Evaluate them. See what's going on. See what it is that the barriers are coming up because of, and decide in a new moment as your elevated you with a very brilliant mind, with the ability to take control of an old cycle. Like, just be the parent to those old thoughts like they're a teenager. Be like, we're not doing that. Or be like, that doesn't really matter anymore. Or we're sick of that now. Or it's a new day. I have no idea. I just keep hearing someone talking to like a teenager. Okay. Really getting into there. I hope you have a good rest of your evening. I'll see you in the next reading. All right, bye. Everyone was